My name is Liam, and I'm 26 years old. Let me tell you my story. When I was a kid, it was just my mom and me. My dad died 4 years ago, killed by robbers while working at a gas station. My mom was devastated, unsure what to do. After my dad's death, she decided to rent out our house to find a smaller place for us. We ended up in Sunol, where we met an old woman, clearly in her late 80s, but surprisingly healthy and strong. She introduced herself as the owner of a house she wanted to sell, claiming she could no longer afford it. My mom and I were confused. Why would this old woman sell her house? The moment we stepped inside, something felt off. I felt a chill. The house looked brand new, almost like a mansion. This is a big house for just mom and me, I thought. After the old woman left, mom told me to find my bedroom upstairs. As I climbed the stairs, I was awestruck, but also a little uneasy. Small statues lined the staircase, and I felt a sense of dread as I looked at them. They seemed old and creepy, so I quickly moved on. I found an unlocked door nearby and opened it. The creaking sound echoed through the house. I flipped the light switch and found myself in a bedroom. I unpacked my things and organized them in a wooden cabinet. Then I noticed something on the floor. I stopped and looked down. There were drawings on the floorboards. A triangle with a single eye inside, and another symbol I didn't recognize. I pretended not to see them and went back to what I was doing. It was already 9 p.m., time for bed. Mom had her own room, so I went upstairs to sleep. Hours later, I woke up suddenly. I didn't know why, I just did. I checked my alarm clock. It was exactly 3 a.m. Then I heard a bump from my closet. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the closet door. A heavy book had fallen to the floor. As I picked it up and opened it, I was only horrified by the drawings of a devil inside. I dropped the book, ran to my bed, and hid under the covers, trembling with fear. Suddenly, I heard footsteps, but they weren't human footsteps. They were heavy and uneven. I knew it wasn't my mom. I even heard growling, like some kind of beast. I started to cry, whispering, "Mom, please help me," over and over again until the growling stopped. The footsteps were gone. I cautiously peeked out from under the covers. I thought I'd imagined it all, but then I saw it. A tall figure with a tail and horns staring right at me. Its body was red, its eyes glowed, and it had sharp teeth and claws. It looked like a monster. My heart pounded, my breath quickened, and I screamed, running out of my room to my mom's. She was surprised to see me awake and asked why I was there and why I looked like I had just seen a ghost. I was too terrified to speak. I couldn't explain what I'd seen. I just slept in her bed that night. But that was the beginning of everything. I started noticing strange things. I kept forgetting what I'd seen that night, but the experiences just got worse. I had nightmares every night, the same nightmare, the devil growling like a monster, waking me up at exactly 3 a.m. Sometimes I tried to stay awake to avoid the nightmares, but I was wrong. The less I slept, the more I imagined things. I was stressed and couldn't even think straight. I kept seeing the triangle and eye symbol everywhere, at school, on the street, even at my friend's house. I'd even hear someone laughing and calling my name, but no one was there. I felt like I was being watched, like the devil was possessing me. Finally, I decided to tell my mom everything. I told her what I'd seen, what I experienced in the house. I thought she would understand, but she just stared at me blankly and then laughed. I told her I was serious, but she just told me to stop fooling around and act like an adult. She thought I was crazy. I felt helpless. Even my own mother didn't believe me. I tried to find the old woman, but she was gone. I had no one to talk to. But then I realized there might be a way to stop the demon. I went to a nearby church. The moment I stepped inside, I felt a sense of relief. I talked to the priest and told him everything. He offered to help and reminded me to pray every day. He gave me a crucifix to hang in my room. For once, I felt hopeful until that one night. I had the worst nightmare yet. The demon growled again, louder this time, and spoke in a monstrous voice. Are sala lores. He said a Latin phrase that means, "You can't stop me." He repeated the phrase over and over, and as he spoke, I prayed, my body aching and my hands trembling. But I didn't stop. I told myself I would keep praying no matter what. Then it stopped. I thought it was over until I noticed the drawing on the floor had disappeared. I realized the symbol was used to summon the demon, and the old woman was part of the Illuminati. That explained why she was so strong for her age. She traded her soul to the demon for a long life. The demon was finally gone. I was free. I decided not to leave the house. My mom liked it there, so we stayed. But I still have this unsettling feeling. I've started to forget things again, and it's starting to bother me. 5 years have passed since the accident. I nearly died, but someone saved me. My family and I were on our way to my grandmother's house for a vacation. The trip was long, 9 hours, but we passed the time talking and enjoying each other's company. It was evening, and we were still on the road. It was getting chilly. The window beside me was open. I needed the fresh air to avoid car sickness. Our route took us to a zigzaggy road, bumpy and treacherous. My dad had warned us about this, saying that every time he traveled to his grandmother's house and crossed this path, he had to be extra vigilant in case he encountered creatures. He didn't specify what kind of creatures, but I knew they weren't friendly. He also mentioned that this road was accident prone for unexplained reasons. Despite the bumps, Dad drove carefully. My siblings were asleep, as was Mom, exhausted from the journey. Only Dad and I were awake. "Dad, why is this road so bumpy?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just kept focusing on driving. It was strange. Dad wasn't usually so quiet. I assumed he didn't want to talk while driving. I looked out the window, distracted, until I saw something. A man, bald and pale, with a thin, old face, was walking along the side of the road. I watched him until our car passed right by. Suddenly, Dad asked if I had seen something. I nodded and told him I'd seen an old man. Dad laughed. He said it wasn't an old man, but a savior. I didn't understand. He explained that when you saw this old man on the road, it meant you'd be safe. But if you didn't see him, you'd die. He recounted his own childhood experiences, how he always saw the old man when he traveled, and that's why he was safe. His eyes welled up as he spoke. "No matter what happens," he said, Stay with your grandma and never come back and cross this road again. You will never think you'll see him again." He added, "I didn't see him. Your mother and your siblings didn't see him either." That made me cry. The next day, I woke up in a hospital bed. My grandmother was beside me. "Grandma, where are Mom and Dad and my siblings?" I asked. She wept, and her words shattered me. "I'm sorry, my dear," she said. "They didn't make it. They're all gone. You're the only one who survived the accident." Hearing that, I finally understood what my father had meant. I no longer thought of the old man as a savior, but as someone who chose who to save and who to let die. My family lived in a remote village far from the city. Our house was the only one in the area, nestled among the mountains and cliffs. Few people visited us, as the path was long and too narrow for vehicles. My name is Nath, and I have a twin sister, Kath. We were born on the same day, but we were fraternal twins. We didn't look alike. On our 7th birthday, which was Halloween, since we were born on November 2nd, our parents gave us gifts. We opened Mom's presents first, a pair of shoes and a bow tie. Kath seemed to like them, as she enjoyed dressing up, but I wanted something to play with. Then we opened Dad's gifts. Kath had received a pretty dress, which made her smile. I assumed I'd get another dress too. But when I opened my gift, my eyes widened. It was a big doll. I was thrilled and thanked Mom and Dad for the wonderful presents. I loved my doll. I named her Nathalia, the same as me, and I took her everywhere. She was my constant companion. The doll was my life. Without her, my childhood would have been lonely and miserable. See, my twin sister didn't want to play with me, so the doll was my only playmate. I cherished her. But after a few weeks, I realized there was something strange about the doll. One night, I was playing with Nathalia on my bed. It was 9 p.m., and I couldn't sleep. I told my doll she was my best friend. Then she replied, "You're my best friend, too." I turned her head to look at me. I was stunned and nearly dropped her. I checked the back of the doll, thinking it was a talking doll, looking for batteries. I got nervous when I didn't find any. It was just an ordinary doll, so how did it talk? My heart pounded with fear. I threw the doll across the room and ran to my twin sister's bedroom. She was asleep. I woke her up and she was annoyed. "What is it? Why are you always waking me? It's late. Go back to bed," she grumbled. But before she could say anything else, I told her everything. But she just thought I was playing a prank. "I'm serious," I said, my voice trembling. The doll talked. I saw it with my own eyes. But she didn't believe me and told me to go back to sleep. I couldn't explain it properly, but I knew I wasn't imagining things. I went back to my room and checked the floor. The doll wasn't there. I was shocked to see it on my bed. I remember throwing it across the room. I panicked, closed the door, and ran back to my sister's room. I woke her up again and asked her to come with me to see the doll. She reluctantly followed. I slowly opened my bedroom door, but the doll was gone. "What are you playing at, Nath?" she asked, her voice irritated. She still thought I was joking. I tried to explain that the doll had been on my bed, but she just laughed and said I was crazy. I knew I wasn't. She told me to go back to bed and not to bother her. I was terrified, but I had no choice. I went back to my room and hid under the covers. I didn't see the doll that night, but when I woke up the next morning, it was beside me. I tried everything to get rid of the doll. I've thrown it away, burned it, even thrown it into the water, but it always comes back. I asked my father where he got it, but he said someone gave it to him. I know the doll is possessed. I'm still trying to figure out how to get rid of it for good. My name is Cassandra, and I've been married for 4 years. My husband and I have a 5-year-old son named Ford. We were renting an apartment, and it wasn't easy. We struggled to pay the bills. I hated the place. It was dirty and it smelled awful. But it was close to my husband's work, so we had no choice. We managed to make ends meet, thankfully. One night, I was cooking dinner. Ford was playing with his toy car in the living room. My husband was still at work. As I was cooking, I heard Ford laughing. I peeked in and saw him happy. But he was staring at the wall, laughing as if he saw something funny. It looked like he was seeing something I couldn't. I shrugged it off and went back to cooking, but then I heard him laugh again, and a strange noise came from the living room. I ran to Ford. He was standing. I stared at the wall. I picked him up, and he suddenly started crying. I heard the strange noise again, like someone scratching the wall. It was relentless. I grabbed Ford and ran out of the apartment, gasping for air. "What the hell was that?" I whispered, holding Ford close. I waited outside for my husband, and when he arrived, he was surprised to see us. I told him what I heard, but he dismissed it, saying I was imagining things. But I knew I heard something. It was a horrible sound, like long, sharp claws scraping against the wall. We moved to a new house, and I hoped we'd be free from whatever it was. But I was wrong. I heard the scratching again. It drove me crazy, and I couldn't sleep. Finally, I decided to tear down the wall where the sound was coming from. As I was doing it, I uncovered a skeleton. Someone had buried a body in the wall. That explained the scratching. It was the spirit of a buried person. I told my husband, and he believed me. He wanted to move again, but I told him no. I felt the ghost wasn't malicious. It just wanted to escape the wall where its body was trapped. The scratching sounds stopped after that, and we stayed in that house for a few more years. It was a summer in Washington. During our long vacation, we were excited to explore the area. My friends and I needed a place to stay for the night. We traveled for hours, and we were exhausted. We couldn't find any affordable apartments. None of us had enough money. Luckily, we stumbled upon a house near the edge of the city. It wasn't old, but it wasn't exactly new either. It had ornate designs and figures, almost like a small castle. The front door was unlocked, so we cautiously went inside. "Let's stay here for a while," one of my friends suggested. "Since the owner isn't here, we can borrow it for the night." We knew it was trespassing, but we were so desperate for shelter. We had no intention of stealing. anything. We just needed a place to sleep out the cold. The house was surprisingly clean and organized. The owner seemed very tidy. We found a large, comfortable bedroom and, exhausted, we all went to sleep. My friends were out cold, but I couldn't sleep. I often have trouble sleeping, even when I'm tired. I tried to close my eyes, but my mind was racing. I decided to take a short walk to see if it would help me relax. I left the bedroom and went downstairs to the living room, which was lined with bookshelves. I scanned the titles and noticed something strange. All the books were about the occult. I didn't read them. I just continued to look around the house. While I was examining some pictures, something fell to the floor with a loud crash. I picked it up. It was a picture frame. The photo inside was of a young girl, probably the owner. Then I noticed something odd. The picture was taken in the living room, and on the wall behind the girl, I saw multiple faint handprints, almost like a poltergeist. I dropped the frame and ran back upstairs. Suddenly, I heard thumping, and the floor began to shake. I panicked and ran faster until I reached the bedroom. I woke up my friends. They were terrified. They thought it was an earthquake. But I told them it wasn't. It was a poltergeist and was probably angry that I'd discovered the secret of the house. We grabbed our things and fled outside. "What was that?" one of my friends asked. I explained that the poltergeist was angry and it was better that we left the house. My friends were skeptical, but we didn't go back. Later, I told my parents about the poltergeist. They were quiet and seemed frightened, shivering as if they'd felt what I felt. Then my mom said something that made my blood run cold. "We felt it in our house last night, too." Those are the scary stories I have for you guys tonight. If you like what you heard and want to hear more, feel free to like and subscribe because it gives me the strength to make more of these videos for you guys. We publish once, twice, or even 3 times a week. I hope you have a good sleep. Good night.